Let's take a step back. Before the plague, Europe was on the brink of a great renaissance, but the disease struck, destroyed so much, and changed the course of history. When the crisis subsided, a new era emerged, a renaissance that rebuilt art, science, and thought after centuries of the church controlling everything. And today, we stand on the edge of a new renaissance in the 2030s, one that could redefine creativity, knowledge, and the way we live. The question is, will we seize the opportunity and be part of it? Welcome to Pastoria. Before the plague, disease was always interpreted as divine punishment for sins. People would pray, fast, and ask for forgiveness, believing that this would protect them from death. But the truth was completely different. Hospitals were almost non-existent, and doctors were often just scribes copying old advice, writing herbal recipes that were ineffective, or relying on superstitions like the balance of the four humors in the body. Hygiene was very poor, and clothes and homes were full of bacteria, and even food was not properly preserved. Diseases were very common, and fever, smallpox, and infections threatened everyone in this world. Then came the Black Death, the disease that swept across Europe between 1347 and 1352 AD and caused the death of at least 1/3 of the continent's population. The plague epidemic spread in Central Asia, but the evidence for that is not entirely clear, although many historians indicate that the beginning of the plague outbreak in the 14th century was in those regions. And to know what the plague is in detail, it is a disease caused by a bacterium called Yersinia pestis, which leads to large swollen lymph nodes, often appearing in the armpits, neck, or thighs. They are very painful and inflamed, and often turn black or purple. Also, the patient would feel a very high fever, sometimes reaching 40 degrees Celsius, as well as the appearance of red spots on the skin. This was due to blood clotting and lack of oxygen in the tissues. I think I was a bit negative, wasn't I? But I am here not to give you a definition of the disease or act as a medical advisor, but to show you what the real renaissance of people in the Middle Ages was like. Europe did not only change in medicine, but also entered the Renaissance in multiple fields. Literature, for example, began to focus on human experiences, suffering, and fear of death, like Dante's writings, which combined the spiritual and the philosophical. Plays began exploring human nature, morality, and fear, trying to understand the human psyche after the catastrophe. Architecture also witnessed a boom. Cities rebuilt themselves after the plague. Streets became wider and cleaner, and more durable building materials were used. New cathedrals and public buildings showed greater interest in engineering and beauty, inspired by classical Greek and Roman thought. Imagine Europe in the Middle Ages, a world where the Catholic Church wielded immense influence over every aspect of life. From birth to death, everything was governed by religious teachings. Education, culture, the arts, and even daily laws were inspired by the messages and doctrines of the church. Children learned to read and write in monasteries and church-run schools. Religious holidays, rituals, trials, and even everyday decisions were influenced by religious teachings. Any sciences or books that might challenge these teachings were banned, and even new ideas were closely monitored. If a book was considered heretical, it was burned, and its authors were sometimes punished by execution or exile. This created a society that lived in fear of saying or writing anything that might lead to rejection or expulsion. Even scholars were under surveillance. A clear example is Galileo, who confronted the church after his scientific discoveries conflicted with its interpretation of the world. Many of his ideas were suppressed, and he was put on trial because of them. But total control did not last forever. Over time, some thinkers, artists, and scientists began to question the absolute authority of the church. The Renaissance marked the beginning of this change, as humans began to focus on critical thinking, experimentation, and independent art. Artists such as Michelangelo and Raphael portrayed humans and nature in ways no longer limited to religious symbolism, but connected to science and natural beauty. Writers and philosophers spoke about freedom, knowledge, and human nature, challenging the traditional ideas imposed by the church. Scientists like Copernicus began to think about the universe in a scientific way, far removed from direct religious explanations. Control over thought did not disappear overnight. Europe gradually transitioned from a world dominated by fear and religious authority to a society with greater freedom of thought, science, and art, creating a community less submissive to direct ecclesiastical control. Maybe we didn't inherit only genes from our ancestors. Maybe we inherited their ability to survive. And today, we stand on the edge of a renaissance in the face of artificial intelligence. Think about it for a moment. The people who lived through the plague, wars, and famines weren't superheroes. They were ordinary people, just like you and me. They were scared. They were confused. They didn't understand what was happening. And yet one thing remained: their ability to adapt. Humans have a strange talent. Every time the world collapses, we find a way to rebuild it. And today, we're in a similar situation, just in a different form. There is no plague killing people in the streets, but something else is being destroyed: jobs, meaning, and the feeling of stability. Artificial intelligence writes, it designs, it codes, it does things that until recently were considered 100% human. Of course we feel afraid. That's natural. But this isn't the first time in history that humanity has felt this way. In the 15th century, when early machines appeared, when science began to challenge religion, when cities started to grow, people said the world we know is ending. And they were right. Their world ended, but a new one was born. The same thing may be happening to us now. Will AI destroy certain things? Yes. Will it change jobs? Absolutely. Will it make many skills worthless? That's reality. But the real question is not, what will it take from us? The real question is, what will it force us to become? Maybe it will push us to be more creative, less dependent on traditional jobs, more independent in how we learn, and more aware of who we really are. Just as the plague pushed humanity to invent modern medicine, artificial intelligence may push us to invent a new version of the human being. A human who is not defined by their job, not by their market value, but by their ability to think, create, and adapt. And the most important part, we are not as weak as we think. We are the descendants of people who survived the worst history could throw at them. The blood running through our veins has passed through famines, pandemics, collapses, and wars, and it survived. So why should this moment be any different? Maybe artificial intelligence is not the end of humanity. Maybe it is the shock that will force us to evolve once again. All right, that's it for today. If you liked this video, smash that like button and subscribe so we can keep dropping more stuff. Thanks for hanging out with me. Ta-ra!